Still, the word corporate makes me feel a little bit like I've got a cold chill up the back of my neck.
There's like these unspoken rules, and that could potentially affect how you thrive in corporate.
It can feel like an exclusive environment.
Welcome back to the People First podcast, the Young Careers podcast. My name is Jordan Spry, and today we're breaking down something that I think we can all really resonate with, is how to thrive in corporate if you're not really a corporate person. To unpack this, I'm joined by Shola West, brand and cultural strategist, and my colleague Grace Foulkes, who's a team manager in our associate care team. Welcome to the podcast, guys. So just before we get started, and something I always do on the podcast is, would you be able to tell me about your first ever job? I'm going to come to you first, Shola, if that's okay.
Yes, so my first ever job was in retail. It was actually in Victoria's Secret on Bond Street, the flagship store that is now closed. And it was like a big dream for me because at the time I was in fashion college.
Yeah.
I'd go in there to shop like just for fun. Like, well, not really shop, more window shop. And I was like, I want to work here. It's so girly. It's so nice. So yeah, I went up to one of the staff members and I was like, how do I get a job here?
Victoria's Secret at that time was extremely aspirational before you even think about getting like a retail career there. Like that is like, I mean, that's a gay boy's Christmas. I was watching that show, right? But I tell everyone I started in Topshop. I thought I was the coolest fella in the whole world, right? You know what I mean? Whenever it's like a big name store like that. But to you, Grace, what about you? Were you in Victoria's Secret as well?
Slightly different to Victoria's
Come
Secret
on.
for me. My first ever job was working in a hair salon as a Saturday girl and learning a lot about people, for one, because when you're a Saturday girl and you're washing hair and you're getting to know all the ladies that come in every week for their set and blow dry, it's a lot of fun and teaches you a lot about the world.
Yeah, and about people as well. And also about gossiping and about
Everyone's trauma and what's going on.
So much gossip.
Yeah, I love that. And today's episode is, we've said it, how to survive or how to thrive in corporate if you're not a corporate person. But I would just want to bring it down a little bit. And today is the first episode that we're running of the People First podcast. And I haven't filmed an episode in about a year now, maybe just shy of a year. But there's a sad reality at the moment is just yesterday we found out that youth unemployment is at its highest level in 11 years. And 1 in 9 young Britons are actually claiming benefits at the moment. So routes to work are thinner than what they have ever been. And it really is tough out there for a young person who wants to get that first foot in the door to work. So I really want to remember that as we move through the conversation. But if I could come to you both, what comes to mind when you think about, or when you think of corporate or the idea of like being in a corporate environment? Like what sort of resonates with you straight away? I'm going to come to you first, Grace, if that's all right.
So after 12 years of working in the company that I work in at the moment and the roles that I had prior to that in the corporate world, still the word corporate makes me feel a little bit like I've got a cold chill up the back of my neck because it can feel like an exclusive environment. However, I have changed over the years. My opinion of that has changed as I've got to know more, in brackets, corporate people. The anticipation that I have, the way that I view that is a whole different ballgame nowadays. But I can see why, to some people, it's an intimidating environment to come into.
Shola, I'm going to come to you now. And before I do, I don't want to yell at anyone, but you came really highly sought after by our brand and comms team who run the podcast. Tell me what comes to mind whenever you think of corporate.
I would say that typical work hard, play hard kind of culture.
Hustle culture.
Yeah, exactly. I think even like after work drinks, quite suited and booted, traveling into the city. There's like these unspoken rules and like politics that you either know about or you don't know about, and that could potentially affect how you thrive in corporate. So I think depending on the company you're at, there's different versions of it. But if I was thinking traditionally, it's very much like a sort out culture that is like already set up. And you either learn how to mold yourself into it or you don't. And you might choose to do a different path. But for a lot of people, it is kind of still scary and intimidating sometimes as well.
Yeah. I completely relate to both of you. I've been in the corporate world for 10 years now, and it is exactly as you've mentioned, like just an interesting world to navigate. Sometimes can be quite performative. I grew up and I thought my week now I'm in, I don't know if any of you have ever watched like Pose or anything like that. It's about like the ballroom scene in New York. So a lot of the gay men back in the day, they used to have this category called executive realness. So they would dress up like businessmen and walk with suits and things like that. And it's because those jobs didn't exist to them and they were like fantasy back then. And I held on to a little bit of that. Whenever I was 17, my dream was to work in Canary Wharf and carry a briefcase. Now I've done that, but it's not exactly as sexy as what you originally think it is. So bringing it back, what sort of personalities do you think do well or maybe are better suited to corporate? And do you think there is like a corporate fit, Shola?
Yeah, I think there's loads of different types of personalities. So definitely people who are team players, I feel like they get on quite well with everyone. So it makes sense and actually they'll do quite well. I think people who aren't afraid to advocate for themselves, because you'll learn like as you progress that sometimes you need to be like the biggest advocate. You can have managers, directors, and you can hope people have your best interests, but you ultimately drive forward your career. So you need to be able to advocate for yourself. I also think people who are like T-shaped individuals, so like they're specialists in one area, but then they are able to communicate with people from different levels in different departments, and anyone who's willing to just overall get involved in things like ERGs, volunteering, charity work. So, and just ultimately like strong communication as well. If you can communicate, I think those are the traits that stand out typically.
Anything you would add there, Grace?
Agree with everything that you've just said there. That is a very well-rounded view of what a corporate person is. I think that the difference now to what a traditional corporate person is that collaboration. It didn't used to be about collaboration when you look at it from those traditional corporate roles. It used to be, from an outsider point of view, quite a cutthroat industry to be a part of when you look at corporate. However, nowadays it is so collaborative, and that has been revolutionised with the way that we now work and the way that across the board now companies now work more collaboratively with different teams. They work, you don't have to work in the same office as somebody to collaborate with somebody nowadays.
Yeah. We live in a virtual world, really.
We do.
And what can be difficult about corporate workplaces for some people, do you think? Like if you're not, I really like the way you said it, T-shapes. I've never heard that before. I think that's really nice.
Thing.
Well,
yeah, I didn't make it up.
No.
And I'm not claiming T-shapes.
Yeah, but tell us what that means, Shola, in as if we're your friends in the pub. Like, how do you describe what a T-shaped person is? And then to back to my question, who are some types of people that are not like that, for example, or maybe are some personalities that you don't see that traditionally are in that thriving corporate?
So a T-shaped individual, I would say, is like, let's say someone who works in the IT team and they're like really specialist on the IT stuff that I don't understand. The typical person doesn't understand. But obviously if your laptop breaks or if something goes on, they need to be able to communicate that to you in a way that makes sense. So they can't just be so like head down, like speaking gibberish and in code. They need to be able to communicate that with you and everybody else. So specialists at what they do, but are able to then communicate that to others.
So would you say that is that someone who is maybe equally as easy to deal with as they are as good as their job in a way?
It's not natural, I don't think. I think you have to actually actively try to be a T-shaped individual because you're naturally going to learn your job and how to be good at it and be a specialist. But then communicating it to people who don't understand, who is just, let's say, I don't know, you have to communicate it to a receptionist who doesn't have a clue about what you're doing. That is a skill within itself. So that's why, yeah, people should try to be a T-shaped individual.
Have you ever experienced someone that you think could be like that? Or is that something that you would say you are, Grace?
I think I'm very much that type of person with the industry that I work in. I have got the niches that I know down to a T without using
pardon the pun, but
but it's all about that collaboration and being able to discuss that with other people and being able to get to the same level as other people, whoever you're speaking to throughout the business, from manager level to whatever other level within the business, you need to be able to communicate what you're doing. And it's really important that we are doing that so that nobody feels excluded, because it can feel quite an exclusionary culture. And we need to make sure that we are moulding ourselves within businesses and within the corporate world to ensure that people can understand what we're trying to get across. It's a really important trait for us.
Would you guys say that you are able to, not you specifically, but is it a myth that you can be your authentic self at work? Is that true? Do you think there's barriers to that? Do you think that's the same for everyone? Is that a question to the room?
I think it's not the same for everyone. I think maybe some people can and some people can't, to be honest. I know that a lot of people who are, maybe it's their first time in corporate. So like for me, when I was an apprentice at 18, that was my first time stepping into the city life type job. I found it really hard to fit in and be myself because I wasn't like anyone. So it's small things like, when you're 18, like, you're an adult, but honestly, I was like a big teenager.
Yeah.
That's how I identified.
You think you know it
like,
all.
you think you know it all. I look back and I don't. And it's small things like at lunchtime, everybody would either bring in their salads, have itsu or M&S. And I just wanted McDonald's, to be honest. And it's like, I brought it into the office the first time and then people would just be like looking or making comments like, is that what you're having for lunch? Or that's not healthy. So it's like, that was me being myself because that's what I wanted to eat. But then afterwards, I was like, I'm never bringing McDonald's back to this office. Like, I would rather eat it out there, or I'm going to just force myself to have a cold sandwich from M&S so that no one comments, That's
almost like, I guess, a strand of like workplace politics in a way, like it just is that sort of thing. But
yeah, so, some people, and then even things like code switching, like a lot of people tend to do that. So yeah, I think it depends on the person, depends on the environment, how inclusive it is, if there's diversity. But yeah, not everyone will feel they can bring their true self.
Yeah, and from you, Chris?
I think I would agree. I come from a creative background. I'd done a theatre degree. I have been on stage since I could walk. Literally, I was from 18 months old. I was dancing, singing, acting. That's what I've always done. And so I came in, and I will never forget the first time I came into an interview with an area ops manager. It was for the job that brought me to the job that I'm in now, actually. And the area ops manager was in there. And we were talking about what would you like to be doing in 5 years' time. And I said, I'd like to be a director. And the area ops manager nearly spat out her drink because she thought that I was meaning a director of the business, not a theatre director, which is what I meant.
Like taking her role.
And so sometimes it's that terminology, and you really have to go, oh, okay, that's not the specific terminology that I'm used to outside of this job doesn't work inside this job. Funny enough, didn't tell anybody I wanted to be a director for quite some time after that.
That's so totally fair. And I mean, I think that's hilarious, right? But like, something I want to go back to is what you said, Shola, is the concept of code switching, right? So can we give listeners what you guys deem as the definition of that?
Essentially, it's like if you feel comfortable with your family and your friends speaking in a certain way, using certain terms, vernacular, and then when you go into the working world or corporate, you just have a different tone of voice. You might switch up a little bit, put on your posh voice, or stop using slang. So you'll just kind of be a different version of yourself. Like, when you've heard of people say, like, put your phone voice on if the bank rings you or something. So
mine's a full-blown English accent, like that's what mine sounds like sometimes as well. But do you think then that leads into a conversation is like, are there certain roles maybe in larger companies that like actually reward people who have like more of the chameleon personality type that can like blend into these situations? Or like, do you think there's anyone left behind in that as well?
Yeah, I think it depends on the role, to be honest, because I know more so in the creative industry, like if you're a creative director or even working like social media, that is rewarded sometimes, just being yourself and like understanding culture and just whatever. And then there's other roles where you're presenting to the board or C-suite individuals, and you do need to just like fix up. Like you can't put on your slang or whatever. So I think it depends on the role, depends on what you're doing, where it would be appreciated or not appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, I I'm a press officer. That is my day-to-day job. I work with the leadership in our business, but main reason that I'm in this role is because I can speak to people and I'm personable. I mean, on Thursday night, I was singing Toxic on karaoke with my boss, right? But like, I can still go in and talk about hard economics at 9 o'clock the next day. So I really do feel that I've been really well rewarded because of how I can speak to people, and I do get that. But some of my friends who are probably way more talented than me at their actual job, who just want to turn up and come to work, maybe have not had the same opportunities as me, and that is something that I am quite self-aware of. So do you have a take on that, Grace? Is that something that you've experienced, or something that you've seen someone experience perhaps?
I think it's something that we're seeing happen more in the virtual world that we're living in now. When you're on virtual meetings, people who are perhaps more slightly more interpersonal or code switchers, they feel comfortable in those environments, or at least they can pretend that they feel comfortable in those environments, so they can have those discussions and they can come onto a call with managing directors and feel like they can thrive in that environment. And I think it has highlighted to some people in the way that we work in that environment now, in that they perhaps before were able to get their head down and get on with their job, and it wasn't highlighted quite as much, whereas now there is a spotlight put on it. Perhaps through nobody's fault, you feel a little bit of peer pressure when you see other people who are comfortable to speak out and speak in an environment and have discussions, and you don't feel comfortable in those environments.
Yeah, I would say one thing that's definitely helped me in my career is the ability to speak. I wouldn't say it's the code switching, but it's just the confidence of being able to stand up and present in front of leaders or anyone.
And where did that come from, out of interest? Not to, because I've got my own story on that, but where do you think that you got that from?
I think it's extracurricular stuff
Right,
at school,
okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So it's like volunteering, street dance, cheerleading, like just being someone who kind of like you.
And you have the same story.
Not
but it's
literally,
similar,
I'm not
but
as talented
similar,
as you, but
similar.
I did a little street dance here or a little cheerleading after school, and then working at 16 in retail and like, in Victoria's Secret, people asking you questions. I have no idea what they mean and like having to just blag my way. So I think it came from just constantly just doing different things.
Yeah.
And always being outside.
I think I've had people. I'm one thing I'm confident in is that I'm a fabulous presenter, right? Like, get me in a sales meeting, get me in a pitch, I'm getting the business, right? But I love it. I love charming people. I think it's the Irish in me. But I remember a manager telling me before that she's like, oh, you can just turn up and perform. But like, I did TV and film at uni. I did a hard advertising and communications degree. My lecturers used to make us sit in front of each other and negotiate as if we were countries at war. So yes, I can turn up maybe a little bit unprepared than most people, but I have prepared for years, right, to be doing like literally things like this. And I have to say I've been very, very grateful in my career that my personality has taken me to a lot of places, but there is limits to that. I can be gay at work, it can be too gay, right? I can have a little carry on after work and have a drink with my friends, but if I'm doing too much, it's always going to be me that's been doing too much, right? And I don't know if you guys have experienced that as well, but do you think that is there a fine line when it comes to like having that authenticity, but also holding a little bit of yourself back? Do you think that's okay to do?
I think culturally it's okay to do because that's the way that the culture works. It doesn't feel like it's okay to do as a person who advocates for marginalised communities and prides themselves on it. And I don't feel like it's okay, but I feel like it is something that we've all taken it upon ourselves that we have to do. We have to become a little bit less sometimes, dependent on the environment that you're in.
What do you think is if you were speaking to someone who maybe was less willing to play the game, dance to the corporate drum, right? What is ways that you think you can stand out without compromising your sense of self, so to speak? Not to be too deep, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Do you understand the point I'm trying to make?
I would say definitely just focus on being good at the job then. Because, yeah, there are two types of people sometimes in this corporate world. There's the people who are really performative, and that can get you ahead. Like, you can be decent at your job, but if you are well liked by senior team and you're on this ERG and you've got a good personal brand, you can still progress that way. Or you can just focus on your job and being the best at that. And whatever the outputs are, going above and beyond in just that. And then that way, you know, it gets to a point where people cannot not recognize the work because the outputs are good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have friends as well who are like, I don't want to play games. I'm here to make money. Like, I don't want to have to be like talking to this person and building a LinkedIn. And I get it. So then just be good at what you do and like harness that. If there's extra, if I don't know, your company has budgets, so you can do like training to upskill yourself in that. Like, just be the best at your job.
Brilliant. And I have the same in my experience. I have some of my friends that wouldn't dream of going for a coffee with one of their managers or directors. Whereas like it's in those small moments that like people get to know you. It's not that you're like bootlicking or anything like that, but unfortunately there is ways in the game that you sort of just have to play, you know, or be willing to. It's not like we're not like asking you to like whittle down your pride and beg on your knees for a bit of company, but it's like if someone is showing interest in you, give it back. You know, I've had some fabulous mentors over the years, right? You know, like that just are so different to me, that have maybe opened doors for me at work that I shouldn't have been in. But like, you have to, if someone's like, I think if someone sees something in you, whether you're the loudest person in the room or the quietest, I think it is on you. You owe them something to give it back. I don't know if you guys have a take on that or...
No, I agree. And I think a part of that for me is not compromising on your personality traits, on your best, put your best foot forward, don't compromise on it. For me, I've always been the kind of person who's put my kindest foot forward. It's the thing I instill in my children. It's the thing I instill in my team and the people that I teach, the young people that I teach outside of my corporate role. It's always been the thing that I instill is put your kindest foot forward the first.
Yeah.
And I think that is what has shown me, because I did what you've just mentioned. I got good at the job. I became the best that I could be at my job. However, I always did it with kindness first, within reason, of course, and with always that knowledge that kindness and niceness are not the same thing. And sometimes kindness comes in different formats, comes in different packages. However, what that has led me to is I came on to be a resourcer 12 years ago in this role, and now I'm the team manager of the associate care team. And that is because I lead kindness first. It's because I've not compromised on my traits. That's the most important thing to me. It's not the most important thing to everybody, and I completely understand that. People have important things in their lives. However, I've never compromised on that. And that's why I'm in the position that I'm in now, and it's helped me in my journey throughout the business.
Yeah. And we've worked with loads of people over the years. Like, I can think about my team, and I know you'll have known with people that you've placed and people that you worked with as well. I work with people who are neurodiverse. I work with colleagues who English is not their first language. I work with colleagues who, you know, have actual access to work issues, whether that's through things like mobility or anything like that. So for people who, I guess, fit in that boat or have different communication styles, like, what is maybe like one thing that they could do to, I don't know, thrive a little bit more, or maybe just like embed themselves a little bit more into the company culture if they might find that a little bit more challenging?
For me, that's telling people the good things that you do.
Okay.
So often people are entrenched in what they're doing. Everybody's busy. In this world, everybody's busy. And people aren't necessarily taking the time out of their day to notice all of the amazing things that you're doing. Don't be afraid to tell people. If you're doing something that's fantastic, if you're working on something that is going to revolutionize, even a tiny amount, if you're doing something that is beneficial for other people, that is showcasing you in the right light, showcase that, give that to everybody else, tell people. As soon as you start telling people, you will see a huge difference in the way that people perceive you.
Yeah, I love that, because that's something that I did in my career as well, when I'd be working on projects and I would literally send an email around to my whole team when they were finished, and I'd be like, this is what I did, this were the results, this was the learnings, and I just on my own back just sort of did it. And then senior members would be like, this was really, really good, this was a great summary, etc. And then again, like, people notice what I'm doing. So I definitely agree with that. And I'm someone who has dyslexia as well. So yeah, I'm part of the neurodiverse community. And I'd say just also don't be afraid to ask for what you need. as well. There's no embarrassment.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
I always say that's
me too.
One of my favorite
I love
sayings.
It as well.
Like,
I really,
if
love
you're
it as
struggling with something, or if there's a certain, you just feel uncomfortable, whatever, you need to be able to speak up if that's going to make you a better person. So I remember like early on in my career, my manager kept saying, you don't pay attention to detail. But at this time, I didn't know I had dyslexia. And I felt like, because I had to like check newsletters and like write them up. So she would check and she'd be like, there's so many spelling mistakes. But I felt like I was spending like an hour just looking for the mistakes. So it got to a point where I was like, I maybe should get this checked out. And luckily the company did pay for me to get the test. And then that's how I found out I was dyslexic. But it's like, if there's any issues, like just ask for help or speak up, because actually being told constantly I don't pay attention to detail wasn't really helping. But obviously once I found out, then I got like Grammarly Premium. Like this was before ChatGPT and stuff. So yeah, then it really helped. Then we had like a better working relationship because she understood me. Yeah. So sometimes you just have to speak up as well if you have any like challenges.
Yeah, of course. And I also think there is an element of like, we have to take some sort of like sense of self here in these situations. Like we just said, closed mouths don't get fed. I grew up in glamorous and cosmopolitan seaside Foulkes on the coast of Belfast in the north of Ireland. I'm a ceasefire baby. Like I grew up a few years before the Good Friday Agreement. Like I'm from a community that is deeply traumatized by conflict. Like I did not know that people actually had jobs. The people I saw working hard whenever I was younger were not, they were drug dealers. They were in the community, like they were not doing jobs that we could legally recruit for, right? So
funnily enough.
So part of it for me is like I got myself here, like I need to perform, but there's also a chip on my shoulder that says like I got myself in this room too, the same room that you corporate people are here in, and I demand all the respect for doing that. In fact, I don't demand that, I take it, so I do think there is a bit of an onus on you to back yourself in these situations. And if someone does open a door for you or helps you out, you need to owe it to yourself to do something back or to climb up a bit more. So if there is like one thing that you've learned today, or one thing that you've learned today from this discussion, I'm going to ask it is, because I definitely have, but also one thing that you would love the listeners to take away from today's session. So I'm going to come to you first, Grace. Give me something that you've learned.
I have the speaking in code, the code breaking, like that is such a fantastic way of putting it for when I'm talking about this in the future, because there is so many people who change themselves at work, and it's such a really fantastic way of looking at it and looking at the way that you deal with different parts of your life and how you put yourself into different boxes. You, to use an older phrase, to put your different hats on to do different jobs. It's been a really useful term for me to take away. Thank you.
And then your something for the listeners, please, Grace.
My something for the listeners is believe in yourself always, and tell people that you believe in yourself. As soon as you start telling people that you believe in yourself, they will start listening to you.
Yeah. Shola, tell me something you learned today.
So something that I learned was when you said that corporate used to be a lot more like individual, because you know how I was saying about the collaborative stuff, and it's very much like team players and stuff like that now, but you're like actually, before it used to be very much like a dog eat dog, like individualistic thing. So it's nice to see that it's changed. I'm happy to hear that. Like, yeah, we're getting there. So that's definitely something I've learned. And then in terms of for the viewers, I would say, honestly, just try to like advocate for yourself as much as possible in whatever form it is for you. So whether it's, writing an email and sending it around to your team because you don't want to talk, or speaking to your manager, or whatever it is, because ultimately, like you, as you were saying, you're in control of your career. You're in charge of your career, and you can't rely on anyone to, I guess, give you the opportunities that you want. You have to create them. So if you feel like you're not being heard, speak up. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Love that. Thank you so much. Shola, Grace, I have really enjoyed today. Thank you so much. Shola, where can our listeners find you?
LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, just Shola West.
Perfect. And Grace, if anyone from our business wants to have a chat with you, they can reach you on Teams?
Please do. It'd be absolutely lovely to catch up.
Thank you both. I really, really appreciate it. As always, for listeners, If you are in the market for a dream job, why not check out Brook Street online? There may be something there that is absolutely perfect for you. And if you enjoyed today's episode and you liked my chat with Shola and Grace, please follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you for today, and I will catch up with you later.